This is Nina Lockwood. Welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Stories and insights that will inspire you to find new sources of happiness in your own life. Hello and welcome to Get Your Happy Back. And today, I don't even know how to describe you, Todd. I will say this much, that some of your labels are hybrid musician, you're a faculty member on a whole bunch of places, you're a technical wizard, artist in residence. Your background is so rich and so diverse. So without reading your extensive background, how would you describe yourself?
Oh man, I forget which social media account I have. Global netizen. um, wow. How would I describe myself? I am uh, a virulent learner. I am a rabid experiencer. It's like my. I guess I would say if my bios, what are bios? But if my bio reads with complexity, as if I've been in kind of lots of different layers of things, um, it is because that's what I love and appreciate. I mean, I really enjoy my life as an artist and just as a human. And it's really all about learning and new things and trying and risking and everything that I get to touch in my life and I've had the good fortune of touching is rewarding to me. So I guess that's the person I am. I long ago learned that it wasn't about what you do, but about about what you pursue. It's like who you are
Mm,
isn't about what you do. Who you are is about the possibilities that you try to open for yourself and others.
mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
that's that's who I am. I can't get any more specific about it than
I wish there was a title that would fit into, but
that. Because we need titles, right? We need
well,
descriptions and like boundaries for
right,
ourselves.
easy handles.
Yeah, we need handles. Everybody needs
Right.
handles. It's a human
Yeah, of course. So, what I've been really interested in lately is talking about creativity, not just from the standpoint that it's good for us, but that whatever form it appears in, that it's a means of grounding and centering. And especially right now in the world we're living with, trying to live with or adjust to, I'd love to have your thoughts about that, about creativity, art, music, all of that as a way of finding our footing again when it's so rocky and uneven.
being. I guess if we're looking at kind of starting at when you use the word ground, that's really um, grounding and ground. These are big
Mm,
words for me, and uh, without kind of being too general about it, because that can happen as well. You know, I don't think that making art is that different from making life. I do believe in right brain, left brain activities. I do believe in creativity as being something that, kind of one area of our psyche really engages in, and like analysis and computation and living, kind of how we execute life. I do see how these things can be seen as separate. I think that living and living satisfyingly is the integration and the balancing of these two arenas. So, therefore, it would then, of course, follow that when we are engaged in any pursuit that brings us to a state of flow, that or a state of meditation, a state of grounding, a state of a real connection to
Mhm.
ourselves and each other. Whenever we are engaged in any of those pursuits, of course, it takes us to a place of solidity and balance. And I think that's how I look at it. Um, but what's I guess maybe what I sense might be a little bit different is that I look for that in every minute of every day,
Mhm.
not as an act that I do. It's not when I pick up my violin. It's also when I type an email. It's also when I seek a solution. It's in every conversation. It's in every negotiation. It's in it's kind of across the board. So there you go. I just took a blanket and pulled it way over everything. So I'm sorry, but this is
Not
kind
at
of
all.
what I do.
It sounds like what you're saying is that, and I'm going to use this, blanket. Thank you for that. As a way of, and I'm going to call it creativity, is a way of, it is something that you inhabit, that it's a way of being.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, 100%. And and when I speak, I mean these days, and I don't know when exactly it happened, but the word gratitude became such a central focus in my life. I
Mhm.
think a lot of years ago, maybe during the difficult time that we all went through, I think, and beyond COVID and just the difficulty of all that, that was also a super difficult time for both my wife and myself, who weren't actually married at the time. Um, and we just, it was so hard. And one of the things that pulled me through that and kind of woke me up again was an actual focus on creating and generating a sense of gratitude and
Mm.
focusing on it. And that pulled me through. So, that all just to say, when I say that I'm grateful for having been an artist, having ended up an artist rather than anything else, uh, that's simply that sense of being an artist and the sense of creativity in that pursuit is the foundation through which I look at life
Mm.
and and connection and interaction with others. So yeah, it's terribly grounding. It's I had this question about whether the act of meditation is any different than the act of creating.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I mean, isn't everything,
Right. Well, this is this
right?
this is the problem. We are now having a global conversation about how uh, about how creativity is all, and I'm here to say that. So it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of all that I have to say, really.
When was there a time where in earlier times when creativity was something that you did and then became something that held you?
Mm. I what occurs to me first is just to say that my way of being now is, of course, as I guess it's not saying much, as with all of us, my creativity as a child was not that present.
Mm.
Uh, I was given the violin when I was the age of 4, and without going too much into childhood and all of the complexities of being a child, that some of the things I remember as an only child was my mom, getting me a set of blocks that was made by one of our family friends who was also a clockmaker. So he made this set of blocks that was in a beautiful box. They were beautiful blocks made out of cedar probably, and they were in a box, and it was gorgeous. And she said, "Play with these." I literally had no idea. And as an only child, mom and dad didn't necessarily play with me the
Mm,
way a child would play with me.
of course.
They certainly didn't have. Dad was away at teaching high school. Mom was doing whatever she needed to do, and I was alone. I was alone a
Hmm.
lot as a child. And so I wasn't able to like create out of thin air. And so I think that that kind of rub impacted me all the way through. And as I began to learn the violin and get better at it, and kind of, the violin was my sense of identity. It was it was my self esteem. It was something I was good at. It was something that I got kudos for. I got pats on the head for, and it was one way that I could get some of the punishment to stop. It is one way that I could actually kind of make it through the world. So
Hmm.
that's a very complex um, intersection with creativity.
Hmm.
uh, I wasn't encouraged to just make up things by myself, and anyway, it was I could go down this road, but then I would be kind of doing therapy with you, and which sounds like a great time, but maybe not for your listeners. So I would say rather that it's really interesting for me to go back and look at creativity as I was growing up. The idea of like really releasing myself from reproducing things.
Hmm.
For an artist, that would mean tracing or reproducing other artwork.
Right.
For a violinist, this was playing everybody else's music from Beethoven to Tchaikovsky to everybody else. This is what I was brought up to do. This is my skill. I didn't really begin to break away from that until I was 26,
Hmm.
27. So that's a long time. And now, of course, my life has completely shifted to pretty much only that. For me to go out there and spend my time playing music that has been written either very, very far in the past and to kind of entertain is kind of anathema to me. I have very little desire. So unless I'm awakening a new piece of music from a composer with whom I have real good relationship, that's important, or whether I'm recreating jazz tunes kind of hopefully in a new way every night, or whether I'm just making stuff up from scratch when I decide to play, which is usually coming from absolutely nothing. The music
Well, or
comes to me,
absolutely everything.
or exactly, but absolutely nothing in terms of preconceived thought,
Mm.
right? So it's like when
Yeah.
I go to make music, I have a over here I have a whole rig of machines which allow me to record myself in real time at the drop of a hat. So I do come from nothing, and if we want to, speak in really new age terms, which is no longer new age, also it's more like listening to what is present
Oh, I
and
love
then
that
allowing
direction.
that to come forth, right?
Yeah.
So that's my happy place, and that's kind of the only place that I really enjoy being musically these days.
Yeah.
Super. That's where it's rewarding for me.
Well, considering the fact that you've been with Bang on a Can so long, you have collaborated with Steve Reich and Meredith Monk and so many other things that it makes perfect sense. And I'd love to go back to this idea of listening and being present because we're probably both on the same page with this, that it comes through us,
Mm.
that we're conduits. And if we're present and if we're receptive, bang. Sorry, I'm gonna get sorry
No,
about
no
that.
pun intended.
Right, too late. But that's where the magic comes through us if we make ourselves present. And in some ways, that's how I see being held by the creative process. It gives us momentum. It gives us the music. Sorry, again. But I'd love you to talk a little bit more about that and how your meditation practice and your Buddhism um, contribute to that.
Yeah, I'd say present and available.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
these two words really intersect well. Um, Speak more about it.
Well, how has this focus or this inclusion changed the way that you meet with uncertainty, not just with music, but in
mm,
life?
mm, mm. Uh, there. Okay, that's a specific question. One of the ways that a practice like this impacts me is a real huge reduction in anxiety. I am
Mm,
not a chronic anxiety sufferer. There is a lot of the automaticity of the negative inner voice that has been
mm.
extremely quelled.
Wow.
Like to such a great degree, and I'm surprised about that. I am absolutely surprised, and really for me, and this is quite just personal, but I'll just speak of the timeline. Um, it doesn't feel like that long ago
Mm,
that I was still wrestling with with the opinions of or the perceived opinions of others, with the lack of attachment and love and regard that I was craving from other people in my business, in my families, in my
mm,
tribes, right? Because we all have those, right? And sometimes it's incredibly painful when you're passed over, when you're
mm,
rejected, when you're told, oh, when you just kind of find out in the background that there isn't an appreciation for the parts of you which are so very central to you.
mm,
And I've gone through this, through my life, in different ways of kind of realizing, oh my God, this is not my family, this is not my tribe,
mm.
when I really thought it was, and then you just kind of move on from these things, and there's the trauma of separation through all of those, and every one of us, 201, have experienced that with groups and tribes,
Mm,
and with individuals, with relationships, with family members.
mm,
So it's like this is really normal stuff we're talking about, not a significant difference from anybody. In my particular world, the more that I began to actually focus on gratefulness, focus on the idea of recognizing that thoughts arise and that we are not our thoughts and feelings, and that there is something else, and you don't even need to know what it is. Just the idea of being able to put a certain amount of distance between the automaticity of thought and you.
yeah,
That investigation is worth more than anything.
yeah,
So yes, a reduction in anxiety, more of a better connection to others, um, a desire and curiosity and a listening
mm,
for what is present through interaction and in just my own perception of what's going on.
yeah.
That's it.
Well, that's a lot. So you are a master at spontaneous composition, and there are undoubtedly listeners who equate structure with safety,
Mm,
and
interesting.
this could sound scary to them. So,
Mm.
what have you learned about the kind of safety that emerges when you take away the structure?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a really, really awesome and such a perceptive question. Wow. Thank you for that. It's what have I learned? Can you say, just for my, can you say that again? and in a different way. Because I want
Uh,
to get that, because I want to get that, because I want to get the depth of this question. I think it's like it's meaty.
well, I'll do my best.
Yeah,
Because you do so much spontaneously, I know there are people out there who equate structure with safety. So, what have you found out about what happens, the kind of safety that emerges when you remove structure?
got you. So thank you for the repeat. Uh, so here's what's interesting. Structure happens no matter what. The idea that I make a choice to stand in what I perceive as nothingness, it's not nothingness. It's for me, 61 years of being on the planet, which all is now here, present, and available. And
Plus, everything that's available to you that's just waiting to come through.
yes, exactly, and especially if one believes in that particular outside world. I'm not an outside world person, so it's like if you believe in that, even more so. Right, there's so much more available. So, uh, but as I come from nothing, or I call it that. Obviously, it's not nothing. It's every time I say it, I'm caught by the language, and when I decide to stand in that place, here are the things I have to release. I have to release a certain amount of self-consciousness. How do I look? How do I sound? How am I being perceived? So I have to like step away from that and like forcibly say, not now, not today, Satan, in that particular thing, right? So I have to let go of that. And then once I begin, I have to know that the evidence shows that every time I do this, if I listen back, there is structure.
How can that be?
Well, there is a beginning,
Yes.
there is an end,
Yeah.
and then along the way, there are watch points that I didn't necessarily intend, but there are watch points because nothing continues forever. Not life, not hunger, not a conversation. Nothing continues forever. So therefore, there are arcs inside.
Mm.
Now, the Beethovenian arc, the Tchaikovskyan arc, it's like all of the arcs in music that we study, all of the arcs in the trajectory of movements in the art world, like everything, even the time that we are living in right now, when the
Mm.
pendulum swings back, oh my God, what will that be? So everything has an arc. So I have to say that when I do something, it's got an arc, and it's got a form, and it's got a structure. So then I'm really excited, not excited. I enjoy looking back at what got created.
Yeah.
One of the joys about what I get to do is that I can record everything, so I can have a representation. But let's say I don't record it. At the end, I press a button and it all goes away. So this is the uh, form and structure and safety. You have to reconstructualize safety. You have to
Reconstruct.
you have to rethink you have to reconstruct what safety is.
Yeah.
We are here having a conversation. If I get really upset that I cannot come up with the right word at the right time and have to be coached by my interviewer, it could be a really miserable experience. But safety, and form, and structure are also present in the lack of need for form and safety and structure. I feel
The lack
fine
of need.
without.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's as though everything that we think we need, of course, has the other side of that coin. Has what we perceive as the polar opposite. What if there is no polar opposite and everything is a spectrum and everything is a continuum, and we can choose to stand on all of the different points of the spectrum?
Mm. That's freedom.
That's choice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Choice and freedom are are very, very similar concepts for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's segue into beginner's mind. Talk about
Okay.
that and what you did
Yeah.
with that.
This is so beginner's mind. Well, one of the things that I was presented with, having played so many composers' music, and let's just say, first of all, that uh, in terms of the concept of classical music, like let's just talk about Western music, because that's my area of expertise. And Western music for me also includes jazz, but jazz is, I think, the truest of American music.
Mm,
So 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 Western and American music. There is I've worked a lot with American composers who are mostly Western European influenced. Thank goodness, because of some very tiny small part of evolution in the classical music world, where other people's cultures and experience and voice are finally being brought to bear.
mm,
There are more women. There are more Black people. There are more Latin people. You know, like I said, to a very small degree, but nevertheless, it is present, and I'm
mhm.
happy for it. So, in this music, one of the things that still is often present is that it is a music of architecture.
Hmm. What does that mean?
It means that if you take a look at any classical music form, the way it is taught, the way it is experienced, the way it is pursued, it is about form.
Right.
It is not about just, expression, right? You have John Cage, and you have Pauline Oliveros, uh, who's out of the lineage of John Cage. And it's like, since the '60s, there are a bunch of folks who were pursuing, like, also Earl Brown. Who else? There are so many composers who, like, even Nam June Paik
Hmm.
as well, who were about the text, the prose, do this.
Right.
And it's often a community expression of music. And I began to look at those folks and realize that their work was no less legitimate than the folks who were pursuing form.
Hmm.
And so I realized that I could have maybe a seat at the composition table that I would not have if I were constantly daunted
Mm.
by all of the composers that I had always played and realized, even my colleagues who are writing music today. So that gave me freedom. That gave me freedom
Hmm.
to explore.
Yeah.
And my method of exploration eventually ended up in what happens if I really try to make something from nothing and accept all the areas of my voice that
Mm.
I could criticize or limit because they
Right.
might have come from somewhere else.
Right.
There's this push for originality, I think, in creativity. It's like, if it's not original, right? And when you finally get that there's nothing new under the sun, that's adulting.
Yeah.
That is becoming an adult. There's nothing new under the sun, and no matter what, there's going to be parts of me which have existed before, and the striving to be completely new is really frivolous.
Yeah. Like, why bother? It's not, yeah, you can't.
But
So,
but but you have to. It's kind of like, for me, you have to get there through striving,
yeah, of course. Isn't that,
right?
that's like the
Unless you're a
Zen
monk to
way,
begin
right?
with, right? And I mean, if you're a monk to begin with, if you're coming through that, through that tradition, you've been doing this work far younger in your life, you know. But this work, doing it inside of our Western culture, it's it's hard won.
Yeah.
It's hard won. And I grew up, especially coming out of evangelical, born again, fundamentalist, spirit filled Pentecostal Christianity. I was full of all the corruption and judgment that stuff
Yeah.
breeds, you
Yeah.
know. So that I turned on myself.
Mm.
And that was imprinted on me very early on.
Yeah.
So attaining freedom from that,
Hmm.
really led me into Jesus consciousness. So
Right.
it's like, Jesus is still a friend of mine, for instance, but I am a pretty rabid anti-theist when it comes down to it. Religion is the problem for the world. So it's like, depending upon, I think every one of us in our experience, which is usually less than 100 years of experience, we all have our trajectory through these stories.
Yeah. And one thing that I love what you're saying. One thing that stood out for me with this composition beginner's mind is that, if I'm remembering correctly, the way you took it was you begin with one note and you listen for the next.
Yes. And that, I should say, I mean, I always, first of all, I named this I named this piece after a Zen concept because that's what was making sense to me at the time, coming from nothing, and this is what
Hmm.
this could be. So I could name this piece, have it be any length, and be able to actually say it was a composition. That's kind of a backwards way of thinking about it, because there are then these composers like Pauline Oliveros, who is one of the very principals in our industry, in our I shouldn't call it industry, in our big compositional tribe. Pauline Oliveras has she's gone from us now. She has a huge seat at the table, and when I titled my piece that and then say this is the performance instruction, that really comes from her.
Mm.
So in my 100 years of experience on the planet, I breathed the same air as Pauline, who I did know and really breathed the same air as. We had conversations together. So I really always want to recognize that her influence is absolutely there. Her
Mhm.
permission is absolutely there
Yeah.
in that.
Wow. What a world to live in.
Yeah. I mean, one of so many worlds, so many
Yeah.
stories, so many lines. Yeah.
And we get to do this one.
Yeah, and we get to do this one. Yeah. And I'm so happy to talk to you always when we're not only at the Christmas table.
Yes. Me too.
Yeah.
So as we come to a close, unfortunately, we'll have to do this again.
Sure.
If someone feels unmoored right now, that they're feeling overstimulated, they're feeling disconnected or uncertain, what is the smallest, most humane way that creativity can help them regain a sense of orientation without needing, as you've said before, the training or the quote unquote confidence?
I'd say the most you're gonna make me cry.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I will resist because it's not necessary, I don't think. I the most God, how let me just collect my thoughts here. One of the most rewarding things I think that we can do is to learn something new.
Mhm.
Uh, One of the ways that I began using social media, and I guess I would probably have to say YouTube rather
Mhm.
than social media, even though that's a social media device as well. Um, Micro learning is
Mm.
is something that gives me joy, gives me grounding, and also takes me somewhere away from the unmooredness.
Mhm.
So if there's anything, like for instance, for me, it was drawing. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was so in not a good spot, not a good spot. And Isabel, my wife, said to me, she's like, I haven't seen you go out with a camera in years. I haven't seen you create anything in years. Obviously, you're spinning. Obviously, this is a very difficult time for you. Um, what would be one thing that you've been thinking about that you might like to do that you're just not doing? What would, just we were looking for things to give me happiness amidst a great depression. I'm like, well, I've been thinking, I used to draw a little, I've never been a drawer. I'm not a visual artist type. And so
Mhm.
I don't see myself in that direction. Well, I started just like, how to draw on YouTube. And I started just doing YouTube drawing lessons. I found this guy. This was during Christmas. I found this guy on TikTok and Instagram who was coming on and teaching every day. And so I started watching and started drawing. And I'm still not a great artist, but I don't care.
That's the whole point.
And really making lines on a page that are evenly distributed, making really nice circles became enough. So creativity, if if you think of learning as a creative pursuit, and just for a moment have that be enough, it can be tremendously grounding. It can be enough.
Yeah.
Find anything that you've been pushing aside or said I can't because, and just pursue it with the smallest scale of expectation possible, and just do it. And I think it can moor you
Mm.
in in the time of unmooring.
Yeah. Beautifully put, Todd.
I talked so much today, and you set me loose, and I can go. So
You did.
I thank you for your graciousness in just letting me find myself in our time together.
Oh, thank you. It's always a pleasure and a privilege and lots of fun.
We'll do it again.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, everyone who is either watching or listening. Really appreciate you being here. And we'll see you again on the next episode. So bye for now.
Bye bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a comment. Your comment helps me reach more listeners. Thank you.